Today, we're going to be talking about how to create a bar chart using Microsoft Excel. So I have some data already on here. So let's walk through what's already on my page. So I'm looking at the comparison of amount of time spent on different social media platforms. I focused in on two different social media platforms, Instagram and Facebook. And I asked 8 different students to report their hours spent on each. So I want to compare two categories or groups across these 8 students. I want to see which social media platform do they spend more time on. So to start out, I need to graph or calculate my average. Because for a bar chart, instead of graphing the raw data like you do in a scatter plot, you only graph your average. So I need to start with that calculation. To do that, I'm going to do this right in Microsoft Excel. I'm going to start with an equal sign. Any Excel function always starts with your equal sign. Then I'm going to type my word average. And you see I get several options that pop up here. So I'm just going to click on my very first option of average. And so I have to double click on that. And then it tells me exactly what I need to include in order to complete this function. So it says I must include all of the numbers that I want for that category. So to do that, I'm going to simply highlight all 8 students and their reported hours on Instagram. So I'm going to highlight these 8 cells here. I'm going to close out my parenthesis and then hit enter. And I get 3.5. So this is my calculated average for those 8 students and their hours on Instagram. I'm going to do the exact same thing for hours on Facebook. So I'm going to start with that equal sign again, type the word average, double click on this first option, highlight my 8 numbers I want included for this average, close out my parenthesis, and hit enter. And I get an average of 2.34. And so now just to create my general bar graph, this is all I need to have calculated. But to help me create a bar graph, I'm actually going to use this analysis table over here. This is a really helpful tool because when I graph it, it will automatically put hours on Instagram and hours on Facebook for my column headers and associate those with my averages that I put into this analysis table. So let me show you how that'll work. So the first thing I have to do is transfer over my averages from what I calculated over here. So my hours on Instagram average is 3.5. So I'm just going to type that into my box over here. And then my hours on Facebook is 2.34. So I'm going to also type that into my analysis table. Then I'm going to highlight these first 6 cells in order to create my bar chart or column graph. So I have my empty cell here, hours on Instagram, hours on Facebook, my mean or average, and my 2 averages that associate with my column headers. Then I'm going to go back over to insert in the upper left-hand corner, scroll over to this recommended charts section, and I'm going to select this very first option. It says insert column or bar chart, and that is exactly what I want. And I'm going to select the very first option that pops up when I click on that. Now you see I get a really nice bar chart with 2 bars, 2 column headers, an interesting title, and some numbers over here that I don't know what they mean. So let's double check that I know I graphed the correct things. So this is showing my average that I calculated over here. So hours on Instagram, this average is showing about 3.5, which is exactly what I calculated. So I know that one is correct. And then hours on Facebook is showing a little over halfway between 2.0 and 2.5. And my calculated hours was 2.34, which that lines up perfectly as well. But I'm still missing a y-axis label. I already have my x-axis labels of hours on Instagram and hours on Facebook, but I need to show what I'm actually graphing. What does this bar here represent? So to do that, I'm going to go back up to my add chart element, my axis titles, which this is the exact same as the scatter plots. And then I'm going to add my primary vertical or my y-axis title. Now remember, I'm graphing the average. I'm not graphing raw data anymore. So my y-axis label must include the word average. So I'm going to do average hours because that is what I'm graphing. I'm graphing the average hours, and my column headers are on Instagram or on Facebook. So I could actually change these so it's just Instagram and just Facebook. But we will leave it how it is for now. The last thing I have to do to complete my bar chart for right now is to add a descriptive title. So I'm looking at the comparison between these different social media platforms. So I want my title to reflect that. So I'm actually going to use this same title from over here, a comparison of amount of time spent on social media platforms. I'm going to go through and double check I have proper capitalization, I have proper spelling, everything looks good. And once I finish this, my bar chart will be done for right now. There are a few other things we will add in the next tutorial video, but for now, this is all we need to do. So now my graph is looking very nice. It has a nice title. It has my averages, my column headers, and my y-axis label. So that is how you complete a bar chart using Microsoft Excel.